All right, Michael, let's jump into it. The first thing I want to ask you is, how would your friends describe you as a kid?
I was a dreamer. I wasn't particularly passionate about anything, any sports, any studies, anything in particular. But I didn't want to be also bad at anything. So I was trying to be at like above the average in a way where like I felt confident in my ability to deliver, but I never put any effort into actually being the best in anything. So in this way, I was kind of comfortable in like realizing the fact that if I had to put my wits and in my mind into something, I would be better. But the reason that I decided not to do that, I was just kind of in the middle. And I was always sort of like dreaming and analyzing and being critical about what's going on and just kind of being like part of the crowd, part of the team, but not being the brightest in a way, right? So I was just kind of just there, right? um Something that's very important to mention here is my father, he had this family business where he was selling this, like souvenirs for tourists. Like he had this small pop and mom shops,
Yeah,
and multiple of those that have this, selling those souvenirs. And every summer from the age of like 7, instead of going to seaside or hanging out with friends, I was working for my father. So I was the kid that was just counting money and counting goods and buying and selling and doing stuff. And so I earned from the early on the value of money. And because of that, I had some kind of freedom in terms of, so I bought my own clothes, I bought my own toys, I bought my own laptop from the money that I made. And it taught me, and I wasn't passionate about business at that point because I was the kid, but I from the early age, I knew what the grind was and hard work and what the results of the hard work can give you. So in a way, at school, I was this kid that wasn't particularly passionate about anything, but on the side where I spent time with my father and his business, I was sort of like the kid that was making money in a way. But I never aspired to do that because I thought to myself that, oh, I am destined to do something greater than that, right? Something that this business, right? So when I went to college, and after college, I knew that I'm very good at work. And when I get to my first IT company that I work for, and
yeah.
I get to the point where like I realized that the more effort I put in, the more money I can make, the more sort of like experience, then it blew my mind. And I start working harder than anyone in that organization or after that. And it kind of got me to where I am at right now. So that's a long
And
answer to the question.
no, that's perfect actually, because I noticed a couple of things that you mentioned. I think that are important to talk about. The fact that you were able to make your own money and you had to buy things off of your own money, I think one, that gave you probably a sense of independence, right?
Right.
Maybe you enjoyed that and you wanted to implement that in later life as well. And also at the same time, you were a dreamer, so I would assume you valued freedom as well.
Correct.
You didn't want to depend on anybody else because you could take care of yourself.
Right.
Did these things influence the way you approached, let's say, college or education? And at the same time, how did that influence the way you worked or who you worked
Right.
for? Did that play a part?
Yeah. So during my college years, I again continued what I had at school. So I wasn't passionate about anything. I went to the gym, met girls, I hang out, played video games, and just kind of try to spend these good years. And obviously, my father supported me and then I had the I obviously as I mentioned, like because I I didn't want to be the you know bad at anything, so I still always made the cut in terms of I get to the I the government paid for my college. I get some monthly allowance from the family as well. So I never like during my college years I didn't work, although I have a younger brother who actually. As soon as he got into college, he started working and he became independent even sooner than I was. But essentially I was the same dreamer guy that never worked, that was sort of doing
Yeah.
anywhere, right? Yeah. So then after college finished, and I was like, okay, I got my degree. what's next? And I moved to and I lived in Ukraine back then, and I moved to Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, and
Yeah.
I was looking for the job, and I was like, okay, I know a couple of languages. I'm smart, I'm dedicated, I can work hard, but I wasn't passionate about any industry specifically. So I went looking into, different industries, and obviously IT and software is huge in Ukraine. So I landed my first job in sales. And
Okay.
when I was in sales, then where I realized that, I'm good at building relationships, communication, problem solving, working in the team, but also being an independent earner and
Yeah.
and goal achiever. And at that point, it was a direct to consumer business, so I was on the phone all the time. But what I realized is that the rules that are set up, and that was probably to your point about being the dreamer and being free, I realized that if someone puts me in a certain boundary, it's like, okay, here's your work schedule, like you work from 8 to 5. I necessarily need to work from 8 to 5. I can work from 7 to 7 or from
Yeah.
7 to 10, right? Like, so I should get the minimum that they require me, but I can go far than that. So I
Mm.
start getting to my work 1, 2 hours earlier than others. I start listening to the calls of other people. I start kind of taking care and talking and learning about other things in that business. And obviously, no one in that current job didn't like that. Like, people
Yeah.
were feel concerned, like, what the fuck is this guy's doing? Sorry if I'm swearing on this
It's all
podcast, but
good.
you got the point, right? Like, so
Yeah.
everyone was like, why he's the first one to get to the office, why he's the last one to leave, why he's like doing all those things, why he cares, why he asks all those questions. But I was genuinely first off interested, but also I realized that the more input I give, the more output I get. So I grew very quickly through the ranks. I uh, earned more. So I essentially double, triple my salary within the first year just because I was more involved and more cared about that. And obviously, I didn't have the family, I didn't have kids, and I didn't have other hobbies that I was particularly interested in, right? So that was a certain, like, the first thing that I realized that I'm very good at that. And then every next company that I've been part with, I always kind of took more and more challenge up to the point where I decided to start my own business. And the point when you decide to start
Mm.
your own business, then when there's no limits. So you can do whatever you want in life. And that was the time when I said, shit, all right, this is the thing that I want to do in my life, right? I can just do this 24/7, year after year, and just enjoy it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And how long were you in a, let's say, a 9 to 5 role before you started Belkins?
I think like 3, 4 years. Yeah.
And
So
all of it was sales.
yeah, that was primarily sales. Yeah, sales development. Yeah, I worked for a couple of U.S. companies with offices in Ukraine and as well as in U.S. So I kind of leave both countries, and I was primarily working in sales, and that's where actually from my when I during my last company, um, it was a SaaS company, IO. We were selling SaaS platform for publishers like New York
Okay.
Times, Wall Street Journals, like analytics. I met my co-founder, and when we were, there's a story behind it. So we were laid off, and when we
Okay.
were laid off, we were like, okay, we need to do something, and we start business together, and that's what. So I was um I was 23 or 24 when I started Belkins. Yeah,
23 and 24. And now it's been what, 7.5 years?
7 years. Yeah, yeah. So I'm
Wow.
32
That
almost.
is
Yeah.
that is crazy. And for you to make that decision, you said that once you started your own business, you realized that, the potential is unlimited. But for you to getting laid off and then deciding to start a business with somebody else, that wasn't an easy decision, right? You must have had a lot of thoughts in your head.
So what happened was during my tenure with that company, I was in sales, and the company culture was around goals and KPIs. Like, you have this target that you need to hit every month. If you don't hit the target, we let you go. That's it. So there was a clear
Mm.
messaging, like, either you do this or you're out, right? And when you work in that environment for a couple of years, you become very hard skinned in a way. So you know that once you do your job, you are like an earner. And in that company, there was a lot of turnover. So a lot of people come in, come out. And I was like sticking with it because I know that I could do this, right? Obviously working late hours, working with the product team. So I was kind of essentially doing my maximum to stay afloat with this organization and hit
Yeah.
those targets. But then I didn't see a lot of potential into what comes next, just because essentially I did my job. I was making all right money. I was hitting my goal. I was closing the biggest deals. But as far as if I wanted to do something more, the leadership of the organization were like, yeah, we like what you do right now. Can you just kind of, stay with your current role? Like, we don't want you to move. And obviously that's fair, right? Because
Yeah.
what you want to do is when you have your sales, you want your best sales guy to always be
To stay
closing.
in
You don't want that
sales.
guy to go to
Yeah.
product. You don't want that guy to do something else.
Exactly.
He's closing. He's bringing revenue, right? So what the hell? So because they didn't give me the opportunity, essentially what I would say, okay, can I do some freelance work? So I started taking a few freelance projects around sales development and business development. I was essentially working as a fractional SDR back at the time for some of those companies. So I got my first experience. And then at that time, my best friend, Alex, who is our managing director right now at Belkins, he was working for this company, Science, who were a competitor of Belkins at this point. But he explained to me, because I never worked in this industry, in the lead generation industry before, I work in SaaS. So he explained to me the different ways how this industry operates, like what's the business model, what are the packages, how usually the engagement work. So I said like, okay, well, it's exactly what I'm doing right now. It's something that I can do on freelance. So, all right, maybe I can do the business. So when I was laid off, there was two paths for us. Like the first path was looking for another company to work for. And I realized that I spent so many years working for someone else and I wasn't appreciated. So
Yeah.
I was fired with one day, although I've done, a lot of heavy lifting over the years
Yeah.
for that organization. So I wasn't appreciated and all the bridges were burned. So I thought like, okay, if I go to another company, that should be a dream job for me. And when I started recruiting and started interviewing for companies like Google and some other big companies, honestly, their interview process sucks because everyone looks at you as you are a profile, like you are a
Yeah.
task, but not a person. So no one cares about building relationships with you. Everyone just cares like, what's your experience, what you do, what's your skills. All right, okay, you pass, you just go there, right? And I hated that because like they didn't realize how passionate I was about the work. So every organization should just be privileged to have me on because I knew that I would just kind of, just grind for them, right? But I was for the recruitment team. I was just one of people, right? One of
Just
the
another
applicants.
application. Yeah.
Exactly, just another application. So I said like, okay, fuck that. I don't want that. So the other path was, all right, let's build an agency together. Yeah, because I value the freedom and I realized that, all right, I actually can do this. And I didn't have anything to expect much. So I said like, okay, let's just make enough money for us to pay us. Then we were fired with a few other people in our company and they were fired because of us. So we had to take care of them as well. Because they were not
Yeah.
paid. So the more important part is that we were not paid the salary during the last month. So so we were laid off without any pay. So my girlfriend had to pay a couple of
Wow.
months for the rent, and I had to move on quickly. So we actually got our first paid customer for Belkins within the first week or 2 weeks when we were, in the
Nice.
business, but we moved very fast. So I built the website within 2 days, built the messaging, built the deck, basically copy pasted from all the competitors everything that I could to move faster,
Yeah.
and then get on the call with a few potential clients. To build the relationship, was the first one to actually they trusted me, and then we kind of from there we built 1 client, 2 client, 5 client, 10 client, 50, 100, 200, and just kind of move from
Yeah.
there. So
And how big are you guys at the moment? Like, how many clients are you serving?
we have 300 people. We already have like an ecosystem of agencies and
Mm-hmm.
products. 300 people. We have different agencies. The biggest agency that specializes in appointment setting, servicing 200 ongoing clients, but we've worked
Wow.
with thousands of businesses, both from small business to enterprise. So we work with NVIDIA, General Electric, Stack
Wow.
Data, Cisco, and other. And then we have we have multiple agencies that are very niche, specialized on a domain knowledge. So we have Belkins as appointment setting agency. We have ClickRose, they're doing performance paid ads. We have Kalina Marketing, they're doing content marketing. We have Bywards are doing conversive copy, and then we have a few other brands that are doing lead gen for small businesses, and then we also spin off some SaaS products as well. So we've moving
Interesting.
quickly, but the business model behind it is that we're building the network of founders like us, and then
Mm-hmm.
working as partners together. So what I'm doing is I'm partnering with other people that wants to run their own business, and essentially empowering them and helping them to build the business. But all the businesses in our network are complementary to each other, so we can service the same clients, the same ICP, but from different angles. So the
Interesting.
vision here is, I don't want to pay Google for dollar for if I already spent with them. So if I already acquired that lead or that customer, I don't want that, to for another company to pay for that customer again if we
Mm.
can, optimize that. So the idea is that how we can service customer 360 and, and help businesses to grow. So the mission is world where business growth is no longer a challenge, right? So just helping the business
Love that.
growth, but doing that through other founders, right? Not just us, because I know that I won't start another agency from the ground up again. It's just, I'm too old for this shit already, right? So,
So you
but
kind of,
yeah.
you guys kind of complement each other, and instead of going to somebody random outside, you'd be like, you know what, we already have these people or this service provider in our network, and how about you do this part of your growth through this person and that person through that other part, so you have everything basically.
Correct. So let's say I have a client that pays us, let's say $100,000. We're doing B2B appointment setting for them, and we're successful doing them. And that client say, all right, we have more budget. We wanted to do paid advertising. We want to do webinars. We want to do content marketing,
Yeah.
right? So instead of building this function within the Belkins organization, it's very expensive at our scale. So we became more like mid-sized company with a lot of processes, rules, 3 levels of management,
Mm.
budgeting, forecasting. It's pain in that. So I cannot build a very successful new function if I didn't have domain experience before that. So what I'm doing
Mm.
is we brought in a CEO, another agency that have a unique experience in that domain knowledge, and then we can help with backend, finance, budgeting, forecasting, legal, IT, and also work on cross-selling and upselling motion, PR and then essentially bringing that CEO and that agency to our clients and working with them to creating these complementary offers and then integrating those offers to clients. So the client is happy, the CEO of the agency is happy, but that person essentially is in front of or in charge of the client delivery or in charge of the entire company. So in this way, what I'm doing is I'm more like advising to that CEO, and I'm helping with the resources to help the business grow. So the goal is to grow all the businesses at the same time, where all the CEOs and the founders benefit from working with each other, but also
Yeah.
benefiting from the resource pool that we are giving. Because why do you need to have 5 legal representatives? You have one legal team that can take care of all the contracts, right? Or
Yeah.
finance team that can do the budgeting and forecasting. So I was, from the first day, I did a lot of things that I don't think that every CEO should do. So I built my own P&L. I did my own furniture in the office. I did my own recruitment, HR, and all a lot of things. And I realized that a lot of the things they took my attention from what's most important is creating value for my customer and building relationships. So now what I'm offering is, hey, we're going to take care of all of that, and then you take care of building the business, right?
Love that. I think the way you put it as a resource pool, I think that really nicely sums it up. Every resource that you need is in that pool. Now, Michael, I want to ask you one more, basically two more questions before we move on to LinkedIn, okay? First, there are probably times where you feel like it's overwhelming, and you know what, it's even as a founder, have a large team, a lot of people to serve. It must be overwhelming at times. Is there anything in particular or a why behind what you're doing right now that keeps you going every time you feel like you just want to walk away?
Um, that's a great question. So, and I think it makes sense connecting from where we started, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is the industry, this is the company that I'm passionate about and the team that I'm passionate about. And I don't see at this point anything that I'm more passionate of doing rather than what I'm doing right now. So that's why, you think about this company, about this industry every day of your life and you enjoy it. So I am getting the energy instead of spending the energy in a way, right? So that's important, right? The second thing is that I have a certain vision of like where I'm going with this and what I want to do, right? So I wanted to create the monopoly in the B2B appointment setting. So there was, I don't know any agency that was built in the last 10 years that was dominating the B2B growth marketing. Most of the agencies that are big and are famous, they're B2C. They work with like Coca-Cola and they have this millions
Yeah.
budget, but no one that was just doing a amazing job in the B2B. So I think that we can take this this niche basically. So that's why I feel like this actually doable. So that's why we're like working. And then the third thing is one of the things that I've done, and I think it's very important for every business or everyone that wants inspired to be an entrepreneur, is
Yeah.
building strong relationships. Like from the first day, I valued building relationships. It's the most important part of you. So all the people that I started the business with, almost all of them are with me until this day. And I value those relationships. So I bring on my best friends, my fiance, everyone, like my brother, like everyone is there because you want to have the best people helping you to shape the future and build the business, but you wanted to build the relationship with them where they are based on respect, understanding, caring,
Yeah.
as well as like common future. So what I'm doing is I'm focusing on building those relationships, and as a result of that, I enjoy working and privilege working with these talented people. And when you know that you can share the responsibility with all the people and they can take ownership and taking charge, then you're building company with a lot of partners, so you're not alone. So that's why I never feel that I'm alone, that I feel like, obviously at the end of the day you're the person that makes the ultimate decisions, yes, but
But there's
every
like a
day,
support network, right? Like the support
exactly, every day
system.
you have
Yeah.
other people that are like so passionate about the work as you are and taking charge. So when you build those relationships over the years, then you know that you have this great CMO, this great CFO, this great chief technology officer, this great head of recruitment and HR and other, like, and everyone is just so great at what they're doing. And so essentially what you're doing, you're just creating this amazing platform with them. So, I always say when we have this, every 3 months, we have I'm meeting with new recruits for the organization.
Okay.
And I always end with the following. I give the mantle of the future of Belkins on their shoulder, and I always say that, guys, I made all the possible decisions within the last like 7 years. Now you're the next generation. Don't fuck this up for the people that are gonna come after you, right? So now
Nice.
you're responsible for building that future, and this is your company now. And and obviously I'm walking the talk, right? So it means that the way the company culture, the communication, the compensation, everything is built around the freedom and around ownership and around sort of like that you want to build your future with us, and you know that it's the best place to be at. And I kind of truly believe in and do this, every day.
Love that. I think that's a very nice way to give ownership to new people who are coming into the company, right? Because then they feel like, you know what? They have this sense of responsibility on their shoulders that they can implement and actually make change. I absolutely love that answer. Michael, now let's move on to LinkedIn, right? You obviously have a prominent founder brand on LinkedIn, and I'm sure that it benefits your business one way or another. You're appearing on podcasts. You recently had an episode with Jen, I think, and stuff like that must add to your credibility, but at the same time that credibility feeds into your business as well, right? So how long has it been since you've been active on LinkedIn as a founder?
So to be honest with you, I think that I start posting almost daily last 2.5, 3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Before that, I was just doing every couple of weeks. I was not very intentional about LinkedIn. I wasn't very streamlined about my messaging. But last 2.5 years or up to 3 years, I was like, all right, I need to do it myself. So I don't have a ghostwriter. I don't have anyone. So I write my own
Yeah.
post. I post them. I think about what I need to do. So I essentially build mm, mm, build my audience and do my own content and do everything myself intentionally. Um, yeah, so that was kind of it. Yeah.
Did you have any reservations or let's say any worries or confusions or anything? Was there anything that was stopping you from starting as a founder? Did you feel there were any hurdles in the beginning that you wanted to figure out?
So something that you realize over the years, and I didn't understand that and struggle with that early on, was that, and this is the reason why my current LinkedIn page looks like it, is that
Okay.
you wanted to have a core topic or a certain like vision to what kind of message you're trying to convey to the people, right? So I was all over the place. I talk about agency, I talked about sales, I talk about hiring, I talk about SaaS, I talk about a lot of different topics. And as a result of that, I wasn't particularly known for anything specific. I was just, oh, he creates this, nice, thoughtful content about different topics, right? But I didn't have a lot of engagements, and essentially I didn't have any vision in terms of where this is going and what kind of audience I want to build, right? So over the years, what I realized was that you need to have a certain core topic or core thing that you would be, popular
Known
for,
for,
people would want
basic.
to read. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you will build your presence around that topic. And when you do that successfully, then people start thinking about, oh, I like what this guy is talking about, like sales, or, oh, I like how he talks about this, or his content, or his thoughts. Why don't I bring him to another conversation? So that's where you see, you start being invited to more podcasts. You invite other people to podcasts to discuss a specific topic, and then every next thing that you do start making more and more sense, just because you then understand, all right, here's what I'm doing and what I'm doing this for, right? So I think like a lot of people that I know, they speak about, oh, understand your audience and build your messaging based on the audience. What I'm doing, and is what I think, is build your messaging around a core topic that you're passionate about, that you can talk and a lot of time, and you wanted to develop in that space more and more and more. And then when you do that, you will be able to build the audience of similar or like-minded people that that would want to engage with you at that point.
Interesting. And I always, I mean, whenever I'm on calls with founders or I'm on a podcast, this topic of, spreading yourself too thing always comes up. Because if
Right.
you're creating content about 10 different things, you're not going to be known for any one of them. But
Exactly.
if you
Yeah.
have a few core content pillars and then you can divide them into sub pillars, let's say, then that makes sense, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
you teach, sometimes you entertain, sometimes you educate. So the next thing I want to ask you is, a lot of founders, they say, well, we could be creating content on LinkedIn, but we feel like the time spent on creating content on LinkedIn, we could better utilize that by growing or working on the business itself. For you, I believe you know that there's value in being a founder and being present on LinkedIn. So how do you balance that, and how would you justify this time
Yeah.
ROI of spending it
Yeah.
on LinkedIn?
So my answer to this question is, as the business owner, to grow your business, you need to focus on two key functions: is acquisition and delivery. This is the most important for the business, right? By acquisition, I mean always looking for new opportunities, building your business in any way, shape, or form, right? So you need to spend time on acquisition every day, half an hour, 2 hours. Like, you need to allocate that time. If you don't work on acquisition, you are missing so many opportunities. And what I mean by working on acquisition is through different means. Like, you can send cold emails, you can post, you can create a newsletter, you can, join the webinars, you can do I don't know, Reddit and stuff, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do, but you need to be consistently going out there with your messaging and building the audience anywhere. So obviously LinkedIn is, I think, the most comfortable and the most efficient way to building the audience right at this point, because it has a lot of form of content. So you can do LinkedIn live posts,
Yeah.
reels, videos, newsletter, and then you can connect with people, you can send email, you can comment. So there's a lot of things that you can do, and a lot of visibility. So as a result of that, it's a strategic, intentional for your business. So you can find clients, partners, hires, investors, clients. Anyway, like, everyone is there. And then you can build and nurture those relationships over the years. So every 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you're like, working with a whole different audience, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, so the way I essentially forced myself into doing this consistently was I put in a calendar 30 minutes every day that I need to show up on LinkedIn. And I had
Yeah.
it as a meeting. And that was like an intention. After that, I built a spreadsheet where I put all the ideas of posts and all my previous posts, right? And some stats. The next thing was I built I worked on, let's say I have a new product like omni-channel appointment setting. So I brought the playbook that I wrote for that omni-channel, and then I used ChatGPT to break that into, let's say, 150 different topics that you can work on around this. And then I built, a certain outline and structure for all the posts. And then now when I go in and I see, okay, what I want to write about, then I already have a topic, an outline, and then I just kind of then create the content, right? Now, I'm not the best person to talk about the content specifically because, and if you probably noticed that, but I never post any clickbaits and I never post any like, here's the download list of this. I never do that. So what I do is I always post only the content that I passionate about or from my own experience or something that I know is true for the fact. So that's why my posts are usually longer. They don't have a lot of hooks and CTAs and so on and so forth. So as a result of that, I'm not always trending as much as the other guys, which I could do. So I could build like, hey, here's like the workflow that we're using this, or here's like the clay automation this, or here's the best I can do all of that, but I specifically don't do that because I'm not passionate about the topic and I don't want the audience to know me as the guy who is posting about the top 10 tips on this, right? I want them to know me and essentially read me as someone that
as a thought leader, right?
Exactly,
Somebody who creates in-depth content that is packed with value.
Correct. Yeah.
Love that. And have you faced, being consistent is not easy. For some people, or some founders specifically, whenever they feel or they hear the word consistency, they think, oh no, we have to post 7 times a week and now we can't do this because we don't have a lot of time. But I believe consistency is whatever schedule you can have for a sustainable period of time, right? Could be twice a week, 3 times a week. So how did you figure out your consistency in the beginning when you started posting?
Yeah. So I think you can build this off from consistently sharing news and updates about your organization. Like, oh, we had a new blog. Oh, we have an award. Oh, we hired new people. And then they will tell you what the consistency. So depending on how fast you're going with this, it will tell you, okay, here's the consistency of me going out there. This is like a lot of people even not doing that, right? So they have a lot of things happening in their organization, a lot of product updates, but they're not posting about that, right? So start posting about it. And maybe you're going to do that once a week or once every 2 weeks, but that could tell you some kind of schedule, right? After that, you're like, all right, it's done. Then can I squeeze in another post? Like say, okay, I'm going to do now twice a week. And then try to consistently do that over the couple of months, for example. Then like, all right, I like that. Then after that, you're like, all right, I spend more time on LinkedIn. So why don't you reshare posts of other people? What other people are posting? Or I don't like what this guy is saying. Let me reshare with my own thoughts and just kind of post something. Then you have a third post, right? So then you start spending more and more time and you became more and more intentional. So that at that point, you're like, oh shit, all right, I actually am posting almost every day and I know what to post about and I have some more and more ideas and it's not a big deal for me anymore. Cool, I'm going to doing that almost every day. But I read and I tested it myself that usually when you're posting once a day, which I'm doing, is enough to be able to have audience engaged. I know that people that are posting every couple of days also are great, but again, it depends on where you at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense. That is a really good answer because consistency, as you said, it can be different for everybody, right? For you, it could 100%. Be sharing updates that you have in your organization. For other people, it could be thoughts or opinions or any other things that they want to put out. Now, if we talk about your business specifically, Belkins, how much of an impact do you think your founder brand has had on Belkins directly or indirectly? Because obviously when you're posting as a founder, people get to know your business as well.
Yeah.
Do you feel like if you have leads coming in or word of mouth is getting spread out, how much of an impact has that had?
All right. So I'm doing something that no other people are doing. And it's everyone is listening to this. You probably want to start doing that. So I'm connecting with every person who registered on Belkins' website. So if you go to Belkins' website, you book a call with my sales rep, you engage with my BDR, I'm going to connect with you and I'm going to connect you with a note. Hey, thanks for your interest in Belkins. I'd like to connect, build a relationship. That's it. So even this puts me in front of the other competitors because no one else is doing this. So even if you're talking to some of my guys, I am involved not in the conversation, but I'm involved into building this relationship and putting that face in front of you and saying, hey, we care about every customer, right? Once this is happening, um, I'm not just connecting with POC, but I'm also start to connecting with the CEO and the founder of that organization, the head of sales of that organization. So I'm trying to build the relationship with the entire company as some kind of like IBM
Interesting.
approach.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when this is happening, the two things happen. The first thing, they connect with me. Hey, Michael, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm talking with Brian or Mary or Carolina. And then I'll let you know if you have any questions. So they respect that, oh, wow, like, I'm talking with their founder. He cares about the business. That's a good sign. But also what's happening is that giving me positive or negative feedback, or like, oh, Brian was great, or like your sales was 10 minutes late for the call or something. So they
Yeah.
give me the feedback that I can work on that feedback. Or like, oh yeah, we sent the deck, but it's too expensive. And I can say, all right, well, it's too expensive. Let's work on this. So I sometimes even help my sales team to close, right? But as this is happening and I'm consistently doing that, I am building the audience of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 7,000 of people that if I never done business with them, I will do business with them because like over the years, like right now, Belkins, over the last 7 years, we have about 14,000 lost deals in our HubSpot, 14,000
Wow.
lost deals. So it's like, I don't know, like $85 million of lost deals, right? So the point is that if I would do this connection and building relationship early on, I would have those 14,000 or 20,000 people in my connection that I can nurture those relationships. But I start doing
Wow.
that only like, I think like 2.5 or 3 years before that, which again, if you are listening to this, start doing that right now. You can use some automation. I'm using expanded.io to export leads, create personalized messaging, do some automation. But this is like just the low hanging fruit, right? So this is the first thing. The second thing is obviously because I'm consistently spreading the message about the company, and I'm also essentially example to my team to do the same. So we are trying, a lot of us trying to create thought leadership content on LinkedIn and connect with people. So it creates a certain vacuum to people to kind of see, okay, here's what these guys are passionate about, here's what they're writing, and just build those touch points. Like we've done study the last few years that right now to actually nurture a lead from a prospect to an opportunity, you need about 62 touches over the span of like 12 months,
Yeah.
right? So imagine like if you're sending a couple of cold emails and a couple of proposals, that's not enough touches to be able to nurture and convert that lead, right? So you need much more touches. So LinkedIn gives that opportunity when you again do it consistently, but also intentionally, as I just mentioned.
Love that. I think what you mentioned, I haven't really heard it from a lot of people. Actually, I haven't heard it from anybody who says that whoever registers on my website, I connect with them on LinkedIn to nurture them and their whole organization. I think that is very, very interesting. And Michael, I have last two questions before we wrap this up. Okay. The first one is, would you be able to put a number to the revenue that you've generated as a business that attributes to LinkedIn in one way or another?
I cannot because so I'll tell you this. So I'm spending around 20% of my total annual revenue on marketing. So it's a lot. So I have a marketing team of like 40 people. So
Wow.
it's like I do paid ads, SEO, content, PR. I have a BDR team that doing calling, email, LinkedIn. So I have a lot of those. So we have about 400 to 500 leads every month that comes to us. And so we have a big pipeline, big sales team. And obviously, because we're doing a lot of those things, I cannot attribute only like, hey, comes from LinkedIn. However,
Yeah.
what I can tell you is we've done this an analysis lately using proof analytics and we did the relation between I did this experiment or the projection where we compared the impact um, of our company LinkedIn page visits to the new sales revenue, and we said that the increase 10% of people checking our LinkedIn company page resulted in 20% extra to our new revenue on a monthly
Hmm.
basis. So it means that it's a direct correlation. The more people check out your LinkedIn company page, the more new revenue you make. So it means that if you're consistently posting and you're out there and you tag your company and people check, oh, well, who is Belkins, right? They go, they check, it impacts your new revenue. That's just a fact.
Yeah, obviously. And obviously, if somebody's checking out your company page, they're most probably checking out you as well because you're the founder. You probably mentioned there too. I think that must have an impact too. The last question that I have, Michael, is how does, if you were to, let's say, for example, the reach or the eyeballs that you're generating through your founder brand or your company page, organic content specifically, if you were to replicate that same awareness using paid ads, how much would you need to spend in order to compensate for that?
So we are spending something like so I think like the way you would want to look at this is
Okay.
you look at the funnel where you have top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of
Middle
the
and bottom,
funnel,
yeah.
right? And thought leadership content and founders content is the top of the funnel. You're building the awareness, and your job
Exactly.
is to get eyeballs of as many companies, as many people, connect with them, build them, right? Then through your content, they move to bottom of the funnel, to middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. With paid ads, usually when you run targeted paid ads, you're focusing on bottom of the funnel. So you're focusing on the
Conversion.
conversion, right? So in this way, short term, you're looking at higher conversion in terms of opportunities brought. So let's say, for us, let's say $50,000 spent on the budget can generate, let's say, 100 opportunities through paid ads, right? Let's say qualified opportunities, right? With my social game, I couldn't achieve this number. However, because as a result of my brand and as a result of the effort that I'm doing, it positively impacts the entire funnel. The top of the
Yeah.
funnel, the middle of the funnel, the bottom of the funnel, the conversions, the retention, and all of the things. So it's an accumulative effect. So I think that you definitely wanted to focus on the top of the funnel and awareness part and have that as your benchmark, and then track down to the bottom of the funnel and all the conversions, and then have other channels focusing on the bottom of the funnel, but not vice versa in a way, right? If you expect posting generating bottom of the funnel, then at the end
Yeah.
of the day, you would have a vanity content. So people will just say, okay, he wants me to convert. So there will be, you'll see, oh, comment this and I will send you this,
Too
or click
salesy,
here and
right?
I will do exactly. And you don't want that because you will then, you know, dilute your brand and what you care about, right? You say, like, okay, this guy is just posting about like marketing, right? What I'm doing is I never put a CTA. Like, I actually don't care whether you're gonna go and work with Belkins. What I care is that you're passionate about what I'm passionate about, and we can discuss that and we can build something, great together. But if you don't want to work with
Yeah.
me, that's fine, right? And so that's why. But that's my strategy because I'm working on the awareness, top of the funnel, problem, and so on and so forth. And then the people that think that this is what top of, again, there are industries and products where it makes sense. So if I were to build a SaaS product that is like freemium or like $25, right? And I know that it's a great product. It's like a good example is like
Yeah.
in my industry, there's a company like Instantly, right? So they do it's an outreach platform that is they have this amazing business model, like you pay $100 and it's unlimited, right? So when founders went out with it, or Clay, for example, right? Like, and they post like, here's the CTA, like you do this like 50% off or whatever. That's a great CTA. In my business, where you have $100,000 to $200,000 contracts, it doesn't work like that. Whatever
It doesn't
CTA
work
I
like that.
put, it's not going to lead me anywhere. So that's
Nobody's
why
gonna
that's
buy
my
from
strategy.
that one single post because it's such a huge deal. I absolutely love that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Michael, that was a great conversation. I think your strategies, the way the stuff that you mentioned, I think a lot of people are going to learn from this. So really appreciate you sharing all of that, and then obviously your beginnings and your entrepreneurial journey as well. Before we wrap this up, I just want to ask you, how do you, are you married? Are you engaged? Do you have somebody you're single? Like, how do you
Yeah,
manage
I
your
have a
personal
partner I
life?
live with. Yeah, I have a partner I live
Okay,
with. Yeah. So
nice. How do you manage
actually,
your personal life then? Because I feel like you're somebody who's always turned on working and into the business. How do you manage that?
so that's a great question. So I do want people to know that during the first 3 or 4 years of building the business, even though I've been in the relationship where I felt that I was in love and generally the relationship was going very well, for me it was the blank page right now. So when I reflect back on this, I like, what happened? Like, I know that I was happy during this time, but I cannot highlight any specific things just because I was so into building the business, right? And I obviously sacrificed a lot. So we obviously broke up because at some point in time you just go separate ways because you are now this another person, and then you lost that touch and you're two different people, right? Because I started young, right? Now when you're in your 30s and you found the person who, and you're a different person as well, you're more mature, more stable, you can then have a certain work-life balance where you can have a breakfast together and dinners together, and in between then you can work, right? And you can pack your schedule as you see fit. In this way, obviously you have time for relationships. So that's why, but again, I'm not a good example in that way, right? Because I did lose the relationship as a result of this, which again, it's life, right? But what's happening right now is it's not about how many hours you put, it's about how efficient you are with the time you spend. Like a good example is I have a brother who I've started business with last year, and he has a small kid. He's like 1.5 years old, my nephew, right? And he started the business and had his kid, right, at the same time. So imagine that, right?
Yeah.
And what's happening is that he said to me, Michael, I can fit in 4 hours or 5 hours what anyone can do in 10 hours because I'm so efficient with the time that I'm spending. So you shouldn't be spending 10 hours a day and not seeing your kid grow. Rather, like, focus on the 5 hours, but make those 5 hours very, very intentional, very, very thoughtful, very, very productive. And you would be able to make amazing things. But also the amount of decisions that you're making, right? Like, it's better to make 2 good decisions than making 10 bad decisions and being frustrated about that, right? So I think, like, if you wanted to be good at this, you need to be a little bit of a stoic. So I would encourage people to learn about stoics a little, because the
Yeah.
discipline is one of the most important parts. So the ethics and the discipline is like, it will give you. So as because I'm staying disciplined in a way right now, I have amazing relationship with my family, with my partner, with I have best friends, I hanging out, I have hobbies. So I do a lot of other things besides the work. But you need to be very intentional about building that flow for yourself.
I love that. I think that was a very, very nice and honest answer, really. So really appreciate your honesty, Michael. It
Absolutely.
was it was amazing to have you on this episode. And I hope you had a good time too, and a lot of stuff
Absolutely.
that people are going to learn from this. So I'm really happy for that. So yeah, it was a pleasure to have you here, Michael.
Galip, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for a great conversation. Appreciate you, man.
Likewise.